Hello, I'm Nat, he's Matt, and we got your geek news right here.
Now this week it's a preview for part 6 in the Harry Potter story, The Half-Blood Prince.
Now, as the resident Hogwarts expert, I'm not sure how much I'm digging that whole HP6 moniker. Sounds like a really bad steak sauce, but that sure doesn't look like it'll be taking away from the enjoyment of this adaptation of one of the most intense novels in the series.
Agreed. Now, although our experience in 2007 with HP5 was so awesome, I finally got hooked on the story to the point that I was so impatient I read all the books. Audiobooks, but books nonetheless.
Exactly. So now we're both looking at this one as an adaptation and as a film.
And as a film, it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Oh my God,
the
yeah.
mood, the visual style of Half-Blood Prince, it feels spot on. And it's got to be, I would say, the best looking Harry Potter film to date.
Have you ever heard of this spell? Sectum Sempra?
No, I haven't. And if you had a shred of self-respect, you'd hand that book in.
Not bloody likely. He's top of the class. He's even better than you, Hermione. Slughorn thinks he's a genius. Oh.
I'd like to know whose that book was. Let's have a look, shall we?
No.
Why not?
The binding is fragile.
The binding is fragile.
Yeah.
Who's the Half-Blood Prince? Who? That's what it says right here. This book is property of the Half-Blood Prince.
Whoever the Half-Blood Prince was obviously very, very capable at kind of taking the conventional academic text of how to make certain potions. And what he would do is he would scribble things, invert the actual recipes for things, and he would make them significantly better. So whoever the Half-Blood Prince was, he was very smart and a very original thinker. But also quite a dark thinker. He came up with things which lead Harry into some very sort of dodgy, dark territory. So there's a certain enigma about who the Half-Blood Prince is, which we resolve by the end of the movie.
So all the students are back and are aging just about perfectly.
You know, I've been really impressed with that aspect of the huge undertaking of turning 7 years of schooling for an adolescent into a believing aging over the course of the last 9.
Exactly, and I'm so glad that they didn't decide to recast them like they were rumored to be doing back in the day. Anyway, Harry and Hermione are looking fantastic, but I've got to say, and I know I've said this before, Ron is just so awkward looking. I mean, he's looking a little more weird as he's gotten older, I think, personally. But I mean, like...
Didn't Neville start to get a little weird looking? I think he's looking better now, but there was some really awkward
Yeah, like
stage
the
for
awkward
Neville.
stage. I mean, I guess Ron's better. I don't know.
Okay, well, another great element of this series has been the constantly growing cast of characters and the incredible new actors they've brought on board with each edition.
Exactly. I am actually really excited about the casting of Jim Broadbent as the new Slytherin Professor Slughorn. Looks perfect.
What you are looking at are memories, in this case pertaining to one individual. This is perhaps the most important memory I've collected. I'd like you to see it.
One of the main plots is the fact that they have to get this, this teacher Slughorn to come back to Hogwarts because he possesses a memory that Dumbledore is in search of, because it will, it's sort of, it's the final clue as to how to kill Voldemort, and that's what Dumbledore thinks it is, and he's rightly assumed that.
Harry, I'd like you to meet Professor Horace Slughorn.
What you see before you is a curious little potion. It does cause powerful infatuation or obsession.
I'm in love with her.
All right, fine, you're in love with her. Have you ever actually met her?
Horace is the sort of professor, sort of teacher that we've all known who adore their pupils, and teaching is his whole life and has been his whole life, and he sort of collects the star pupils around him, and he's certainly a very recognisable character from my point of view. I could see those. I can remember those sort of teachers. So so when he's asked to come back out of retirement to come back to Hogwarts, he sort of reluctantly leaps at the idea, I think.
Are there some kinds of magic you're not allowed to teach us?
I think your question's better be posed to Professor Snape.
Yes. He and I don't exactly see eye to eye, sir. What I mean to say is, well, he's not like you. You might misunderstand.
Yes. There can be no light without the dark. So it is with magic. Myself, I always strive to live within the light. I suggest you do the same.
Is that what you told Tom Riddle, sir, when he came asking questions?
Dumbledore put you up to this, didn't he? Didn't he?
Obviously, things are getting very dark and foreboding at this stage in the anthology, and the visual tone is reflecting that as much as the story itself.
I've been actually really impressed along the way that each director has been able to bring that gloom and danger up a notch every time.
Although Prisoner of Azkaban was a giant step in that direction.
Absolutely.
The stakes, right now, they are the highest they've ever been in HalfBlood Prince. And
And if you've read it, you know what happened.
Voldemort has chosen Draco Malfoy for a mission.
I think Malfoy being by himself, especially without his father to sort of back him up, so to speak, it definitely shows a more vulnerable side of him. And I think in previous years he's come across as a very confident and cocky, very self-confident person, whereas this film really gives an opportunity to see he's not. And if anything, he's much weaker than he ever shows out. And if there ever was a battle between young Harry and Draco, I think it's pretty evident in this film that Draco's not quite the He-Man that he wishes he was.
I know what you did, Malfoy. You hexed her, didn't you? Basically, Harry comes up with this theory that Draco Malfoy is now a Death Eater, and you know his dad was one, so that's the thinking behind it. So you know, Harry has got his suspicions and is sort of stalking Malfoy to try and actually find out what's happening.
So even though each movie in the series has been a less and less comprehensive adaptation of the book, I'm actually crazy excited about HalfBlood Prince.
Well, considering that each book has been getting longer and longer for a maturing reader, it's really hard to adapt them as faithfully at first.
Exactly.
Because,
We'd be sitting there for like 10 hours.
The first one came out really well, but the book's like that thin. And without making the movie like 3 or 4 or 5 hours long, you'd get pretty much screwed trying to adapt all of it.
But we should note that Book 7, Deathly Hallows, has been split into 2 movies to ensure that the end of the Harry Potter story is actually given the time and patience it needs to be done right.
Which is great news, because that book was enormous.
Oh my God, yes. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves right now because now we're talking about HalfBlood Prince, and it's another absolute summer blockbuster midweek release, so look for this one to be out on Wednesday.
And the serious fans, of course, will be lining up for the 12:01 on Tuesday, just like us.
Absolutely. So see you next week for our review of Harry Potter and the HalfBlood Prince.
See you then.
Superfire!